warm welcome to TV Africa News. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Luima, but first are the headlines. Tanzania's Pan-African President, John Pombe Magufuli, dies at 61. Vaccination campaign launched by the army. Security forces vote ahead of Congo's presidential election. And in sports, African team must win World Cup, declares new CAF chief Patrice Motsepe. Now the news in detail. John Magufuli, Tanzania's firebrand president, who dismissed the severity of the coronavirus pandemic and urged voters to gather in churches and mosques to protect themselves against it, has died, leaving behind a mixed legacy and questions over the leadership of his gold-producing nation. Our reporter Nahabwe has more.
Tanzania's Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan reported Mr. Magufuli's death on state television shortly before midnight on Wednesday, saying he had died of heart complications while being treated in Dar es Salaam Zina Hospital. Speculation had been rife across East Africa for more than a week that Magufuli, a vocal COVID-19 skeptic, was critically ill with the coronavirus. Nicknamed the bulldozer for the forceful leadership style he used on allies and opponents alike, Mr. Magufuli was among East Africa's rising cadre of autocratic technocrats who saw Western-style democracy as an obstacle to the economic transformation of the world's poorest continent. Last year, the World Bank classified Tanzania as a middle-income economy for the first time, a feat achieved 5 years ahead of schedule. Under the Tanzanian constitution, Ms. Suluhu, the current vice president and Mr. Magufuli's running mate in last year's election, becomes president-elect and will complete his 5-year mandate. Reporting for TV Africa News, Nahabwe Kajura.
Africa woke up in shock with the death of the Tanzanian leader, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. Known for his Pan-African beliefs and practice, Comrade Magufuli has been an icon in the fight against white superiority. Now our reporter compiled us a report on his life. Let's take a look.
Born on October 29, 1959 in northern Tanzania in a fishing village near the shores of Lake Victoria, John Pombe Magufuli worked as a high school mathematics and chemistry teacher before training as an industrial chemist. Magufuli ventured into elective politics after a short period as a teacher at the Sengerema Secondary School between 1982 and 1983. In 1988, Magufuli earned his Bachelor of Science in Education, majoring in chemistry and mathematics as teaching subjects from the University of Dar es Salaam. He taught chemistry and mathematics. Later on, he quit his teaching job and was employed by the Nyanza Cooperative Union Limited as an industrial chemist. He remained there from 1989 to 1995 when he was elected as Member of Parliament representing Chato District. He also earned his master's and doctorate degrees in chemistry from the University of Dar es Salaam in 1994 and 2009, respectively. Magufuli was appointed Deputy Minister for Works in his first term as MP. In 1995, he was elected a lawmaker for the ruling Chama cha Mapinduzi party and served a decade as Works and Infrastructure Minister, forging a reputation as an incorruptible enforcer of government policies, including the construction of multi-billion-dollar roads and railway projects. Magufuli retained his seat in the 2000 elections and was promoted to a full ministerial position under the same docket. After President Jakaya Kikwete was requested to take office, he moved John Pombe Magufuli to the post of Minister of Lands and Human Settlement on 4th January 2006. Subsequently, he served as Minister of Livestock and Fisheries from 2008 to 2010 and again as Minister of Works from 2010 to 2015. On 12th July 2015, Magufuli was nominated as Chama cha Mapinduzi's presidential candidate for the 2015 election after winning a majority vote in the final round of the primary over two opponents, Justice Minister and former United Nations Deputy Secretary General Asha Rose Mijiro and the African Union Ambassador to the United States of America, Amina Salum Ali. Although Magufuli faced a strong challenge from the opposition candidate and previous Chama cha Mapinduzi political party member Edward Lowassa in the election held on the 25th of October 2015, Magufuli was declared the winner by the National Electoral Commission on the 29th of October 2015. He received 58% of the vote. His running mate, Samia Suluhu, was also declared vice president. The president-elect, John Pombe Magufuli, was sworn in on 5th November 2015. In late 2019, Magufuli was awarded an honorary doctorate by the University of Dodoma for improving the economy of the country. In July 2020, Magufuli was nominated as the Chama cha Mapinduzi's presidential candidate in elections scheduled for October 2020, where he received the highest votes and was therefore re-elected to extend his presidency until 2025 for a second term. On the night of 17th March 2021, Vice President Samia Suluhu announced that Magufuli had passed away at 6 p.m. local time in Muzena Hospital in Dar es Salaam, where he was receiving treatment. The Vice President announced 14 days of national mourning and said that all flags would fly at half-mast nationwide. Magufuli was married to Janet Magufuli, a primary school teacher, and is survived with 5 children. May the soul of the President, John Pombe Magufuli, rest in eternal peace. For TV Africa News, Omulangira Kalema reporting.
Moving on, President Yoweri Museveni has joined other African presidents to mourn the second days of a reigning president, John Pombe Magufuli, in less than a year. Our reporter Katende has more.
Through his Twitter, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, together with President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, joined Tanzania in mourning the passing of great son of Africa, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. Mr. Museveni eulogized Magufuli as a pragmatic leader who believed in and worked for economic empowerment of East Africans. President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, while addressing journalists at State House in Nairobi, said Africa's lost an illustrious leader with vision and passion who was a champion of Pan-Africanism and integration of East African countries. Mr. Kenyatta announced 7 days of mourning the late His Excellency Pombe Magufuli. Rwandan president has sent his condolences through his Twitter to all people of Tanzania and Africa as a whole. His demise comes nearly a year after then Burundian President Pierre Nkurunziza died last on June 8th. Katende Chavasinga reporting for TV Africa.
Away from that, the Ministry of Defense has launched its official COVID-19 vaccination exercise at the Senior Officers Diagnostic Center in Buya with the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Nalugo reports.
Uganda People's Defense Forces is one of the first priority groups that were outlined by the Ministry of Health in receiving the COVID-19 vaccine as frontline workers who are also at risk of getting infected by COVID-19 easily. Minister of Defense Adolf Mwesije took his jab first to show the rest that the vaccine is safe. While launching the vaccine, Minister Adolf Mwesije said besides the donations from the government of India and UN, the Uganda government is going to invest money to buy enough vaccines for Ugandans to be vaccinated and also encourage them to get vaccinated in order to fight the deadly disease. The exercise will begin with the Air Force on Monday, 22nd March 2021, Land Forces on Tuesday, after sensitization from the health experts. The Senior Officers Diagnostic Center in Buea will also be open for all members who would wish to be vaccinated. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
The Uganda People's Defence Force has announced plans to phase out local defence unit personnel recruited and deployed in Karamoja due to security threats from within the force. Kachanchu has more.
Addressing the media at the Uganda People's Defence Force 3rd Division headquarters in Moroto, General Eluelu said the Army's decision to phase out local defence unit activities in Karamoja followed investigations which proved that some Karimajong who were trained as local defence unit personnel had become security threats. He added that screening will prompt those with good record to be taken back for fresher training and later be integrated into the National Army, the Uganda People's Defence Force. In 2010, President Museveni directed the recruitment of at least 2,400 former Karimajong Katorra soldiers as local defense unit personnel to help in consolidating the peace achieved by security agencies in the region since the disarmament program started in 2001. However, many complaints have been raised against the local defense unit personnel, with locals attributing current cattle raids to the LDUs. Newly elected district chairperson of Nabilatuk district, Mr. Paul Lokol welcomed the Army's plan to phase out the local defense unit personnel, saying it will be relief to the people of Karamajong. Africa Today, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
Let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV African News, The Right to Know. A French-Norwegian archaeological team has discovered new Christian ruins in Egypt's western desert, revealing monastic life in the region in the 5th century AD, according to the Egyptian Antiquities Ministry. We have more.
The ministry said in a statement that the mission unearthed several buildings made of basalt, others carved into the bedrock, and some made of mud bricks during its third excavation campaign at the Tal Ganub Kasli Al Aguz site in the Baharia Oasis. Osama Talat, head of Islamic, Coptic and Jewish antiquities at the ministry, said that the complex comprises of 6 sectors containing the ruins of 3 churches and monks' cells, whose walls bear graffiti and symbols with Coptic connotations. Mission head Victor Gika said 19 structures and a church carved into the bedrock were discovered last year. According to famed Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, in January, Egypt unveiled ancient treasures found at the Saqqara archaeological site south of Cairo, including sarcophagi over 3,000 years old, in a discovery that rewrites history.
Moving on, for the first time in the Republic of Congo, security forces have started to vote in the town of Dolisi ahead of Wednesday's presidential election. Nahabwe reports.
According to the Congolese authorities, the 12,000 soldiers and police officers who casted their vote would free up security forces and allow them to focus on securing polling stations on Wednesday. Bertrand Menia of the Fed Up movement said the voters' list did not dissociate members of the military from the civilians. The National Electoral Commission has said the security forces' ballots will be counted at the same time as those of the civilians. Denis Sassou Nguesso, 77, who has spent 36 years at the head of Congo, now faces 6 candidates, amongst which 2 of his former ministers, Mathias Dizon and Guy Brice Parfiet Colelas. Reporting for TV African News, Nahabwe Kajur.
Away from that, Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko continues to go head-to-head with the authorities and warned that a third term is out of the question. Kachanchu has more.
During a press conference in Dakar, the leader of the PASTEF opposition party announced his intention to bring the West African countries' religious figures in the debate. Ousmane Sonko said that it was no longer acceptable for anyone in Senegal to stand before the people and think for a fraction of a second that they will be allowed to serve a third term. Since his arrest in last February, Ousmane Sonko has risen to become the main opponent to President Macky Sall. Many Senegalese took to the streets as they saw in the opposition member of parliament a solution to many of their problems, such as poverty and unemployment. Africa Today, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
Moving on, the African Union mission that arrived in the Central African Republic a few days ago with the dual objective of creating political mediation between the government and armed groups and observing the partial legislative elections, including runoffs, has uploaded the exercise. Let's take a look.
Talks were tough between the mission and two opposing parties, so much so that the mission was unable to visit the entire country. However, the mission is satisfied with the conduct of the elections since March 14th and calls on the government to engage in the dialogue advocated by the Coalition of Patriots for Change. It was composed of about 20 people. Led by former Malian Prime Minister Modibo Sidibe. The African Union mission stayed in the Central African Republic for 2 weeks and was able to observe the legislative elections in 4 of the 20 prefectures that make up the Central African Republic today. Reporting for TV African News, Nohawe Kajura.
Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. Once again, you're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, Tunisian President Kais Saied began a state visit on Wednesday to neighboring Libya, a key economic partner that descended into chaos in 2011 before recently embarking on a promising transition process. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
Mr. Said was welcomed at the airport of the western capital Tripoli by the President of the Presidential Council, Mohamed Al-Manfi. The official program includes talks with Al-Manfi and interim Prime Minister Abdelhamid Deiba, who officially took office on Monday after being sworn in. The government took office on Tuesday in Tripoli and is tasked with unifying the institutions ahead of elections scheduled for December. The executive was born of a UN process launched in November in Tunis and launched in February in Geneva before obtaining a historic vote of confidence from Parliament on 10th March.
In our health news today, Somalia started administering COVID-19 vaccinations on Tuesday with the inoculation of the health minister who received the jab publicly to reassure the nation about its safety. Our reporter Nahawe has more.
The Horn of Africa nation, which has recently experienced a surge of cases, on Monday received its first shipment of 300,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine through the International COVAX Initiative to ensure that low and middle-income countries receive vaccines. Somalia's first vaccinations happened in a small ceremony at the Matini Hospital in the capital of Mogadishu, where Health Minister Fauzia Abibeka Noor urged the public to embrace the vaccines to stem infections in the country of 15 million people and one of the continent's weakest health systems. Only 5 people, including the minister and 2 employees of the World Health Organization, received a shot in the arm on Tuesday. But some ordinary Somalis who spoke to TV Africa said they are not on getting vaccinated. Reporting for TV Africa News, Nahabwe Kajura.
And in sports, 4 days after being elected president of the Confederation of African Football, Patrice Motsepe said that African football must aspire to have one of their national teams win the World Cup in the near future. Our reporter Katende has more.
During a press conference in Johannesburg on Tuesday, Patrice Motsepe said that as part of his plan, an African team must win World Cup in the near future. The 59-year-old South African mining billionaire assumed the role on Friday at a CAF General Assembly meeting in Morocco without a need for vote after a deal brokered by World Governing Body FIFA saw his 3 challengers withdraw, leaving him as the only candidate. He promised to be more proactive in bringing together the 56 member associations that make up the CAF and increase the sponsorship for the Champions League and African Cup of Nations. As the head of CAF, Motsepe automatically becomes FIFA Vice President and a member of the FIFA Council. Katende Chabasinga reporting for TV Africa.
Now, before we end our news bulletin today, let's take a recap of our top stories. Tanzania's Pan-African President, John Pombe Magufuli, dies at 61. Vaccination campaign launched by the Army. Security forces vote ahead of Congo's presidential election. And in sports, African team must win World Cup, declares new CAF chief Patrice Motsepe. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.
This is Africa, and that was the news.